Welcome back. Now, the MP for Old Tafo, Dr. Anthony Akoto Osei, has been adjudged the overall best MP with a total score of 94%, while the MP for Sishi, Rioso Paul Evans Edu, was the worst performer with 11%. A report by transparency organization Odikro revealed 19 members of parliament did not make any statement on the floor of the House throughout the 4 years in parliament.
Information was obtained primarily from Parliament's website and staff of the Parliamentary Service. The group assigned a weight of 40% of total score to attendance and 60% to the contribution score. Chair of the Steering Committee of Star Ghana, Professor Akila Kwasoya, stressed this will aid the new Parliament in playing its oversight role.
This report and what will follow will give us a better understanding of how the system actually works, how it works as an oversight body over the executive, as the watchdog over our fiscal space, as legislators who pass laws, and overall as our representatives in the world we want. So that is for me the critical contribution of this report.
The Star Ghana funded project also revealed some MPs, including MPP Ascent Central MP Ken Ohene Japan and former Deputy Central Regional Minister Kwesta Poku Asoya, were among the worst performing MPs. The 19 members of parliament who did not make a statement were part of 275 MPs who were elected during the 2012 parliamentary elections. They are made up of 16 MPs who belong to the National Democratic Congress, who were then the majority, and 3 MPs of the New Patriotic Party. The MP for Old Tafo, Anthony Akoto Osei, was adjudged the overall best MP with a total score of 94.12%, followed by James Kluche Aveji, 93.39%, and Joseph Yilechwe, 92.21%. Reacting to the report, MP for Whole West, Emmanuel Kwesi Bedra, commended the group for the exercise. He, however, questioned the rationale behind apportioning 40% for attendance and 60% for contributions.
And then I've also noticed that there are people who come there to contribute by their name, they get them 0 as a weighting for contributing, which means that there's a problem with their recording, which they have to work at. It's a good report, but the weighting needs to be looked at.
The report further revealed that absenteeism was a major concern. The group believes the report will strengthen Parliament as well as give citizens an authoritative baseline for assessing their members of Parliament. The group also recommended a reform in the Constitution as well as the Standing Orders of Parliament, including the Standing Orders 112 and 113, which deals with the procedure for voting, as well as a reform in Parliament's record keeping.
Right, so let's do some analysis on this report. I have with me Lolan Sego Moses, who is the lead author of this research and is also in charge of content. How are you, sir?
I'm fine.
So let me get a better understanding of what you did and within which period, and how come you arrived at being able to adjudge one person, one MP to have outperformed the other and all of that. So let us understand what happened.
So we collected data between 2013 and 2016. Every day Parliament meets, it produces 3 documents. The Hansard, which is a verbatim record of everything said on the floor of Parliament. The votes and proceedings, which is like the minutes of Parliament, of parliamentary proceedings. And the other paper, which is the agenda document of Parliament. So from these 3 documents, we extracted the data that we used to compute our scorecards. In every Hansard, every time an MP speaks, his or her name is written. So you see honorable.
So it's clear. It's not something that is.
So it's not. We don't conjure these
the figures.
Yeah. We simply do a count of the records that are taken by the parliamentary service itself, and then we count how many times an MP has spoken in the Hansard. And computes those figures, and then we also use the votes and proceedings document, which records the number of times an MP was present, absent, and absent without permission, and computes that also. And those are the figures.
Basically, that's it. So tell me, what this really means to the performance of each of the members of the House, because I do know that beyond just speaking on the floor,
yes,
possibly they might be engaged in other committee works which might not necessarily require them to speak. So will it be fair to judge an MP's performance purely based on the records in the Hands Act?
Excuse me. Thank you for asking that question. It's come up several times. The only reason why we can't record what an MP says at the committee level is that Parliament itself does not record what individual MPs say at committee level. And so we base all our analysis on the data the Parliamentary Service collects. Unfortunately, the Parliamentary Service at this time does not collect what individual MPs contribute to committee discussions, and that's one of the recommendations that we made, that they collect that data. So you are right to say that our assessment doesn't cover every aspect of an MP's work. For example, we don't even look at their constituency level work, but we are very clear about the scope of our reports, and based on that scope, we've come out with our findings.
So let's talk about the scope.
Yes.
You are clear about the scope.
Yes.
So the outcome of the research means what to Parliament itself in terms of performance and efficiency of the Parliament, the last Parliament?
Well, so the outcome of the research means that compared to the second, third, and fourth parliaments, for instance, the immediate previous parliament passed a good number of bills. They passed over 70 bills compared to the second, third, and fourth parliaments, which averaged about 90 bills. So the disparity was.
Is this supposed to be good?
Well, I won't comment on whether it is good or bad. Because passing more bills doesn't necessarily mean
you did a thorough work.
You did a thorough job on the bills. So we just looked at that statistic to say how busy was Parliament in comparison to previous parliaments, and we think in comparison to previous parliaments, so just in comparison to previous parliaments, the immediate past parliaments did a good job in comparison to previous parliaments. But we look at a wide range of issues. We look at the sorts of sectors that bills were introduced in, and we found that taxes covered 43% of the bills passed.
So taxes were a larger chunk of the bills passed. And is this problematic? I mean, does this? I'm asking this on the back of the fact that if, for example, in the lifespan of a particular parliament, you get more tax bills being passed, that will mean other sectors might not be getting their needed attention from the executive, which obviously comes down to the level of Parliament.
Well, I think all we can say based on that data is that the previous Parliament was focused on perhaps broadening or deepening the tax net, depending on the nature of and the content of the tax bills that they passed. So we can say that taxes were a major item on the government's agenda. Beyond that, I wouldn't want to go into whether that was beneficial or detrimental. I think you require much more data and analysis to arrive at that sort of
so finally, before I make you go, fast forward, moving forward, what are your expectations of the current Parliament, considering the outcomes of the research you did and what the study showed? What do you want to see for this new Parliament in terms of performance and all the indicators you measured?
Well, we expect to see MPs make themselves present in the House more often. We expect them to contribute more often to debates. We expect Parliament to prosecute its agenda of executive oversight, of lawmaking and of representation in a much more transparent manner, because we believe that citizens are interested in what their MPs do in Parliament. We shall continue to assess Parliament and make this data available to citizens, and we believe it will become much more important in our governance.
Okay, Mr. Sega Moses, thanks very much for joining us.